Hello, everybody, and welcome by a new episode of the Follow Your Passion podcast. Let me introduce my guest of today. His name is Jonathan McLean. He has worked in the staffing and recruitment industry for over 7 years and has generated net sales of over $1 million. Jonathan has extensive experience partnering with medical teams, developing organizations, and hiring the best talent. That made him start his own company in 2019 called he founded his niche, the Aesthetic Healthcare Recruiting Firm, exclusively dedicated to finding the best professionals in the aesthetic industry to place them in medspas, dermatology, and plastic surgery offices. And I would love to hear everything about him because he's very passionate about business, entrepreneurship, and how to build a winning team. Welcome, Jonathan. How are you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great, Jonathan. So tell me, how did you decide to go into this particular niche? I know you got some experience in this business, of course, but how did you get started?
No, good question. So I started off in staffing and recruitment, and I was doing staffing and recruitment for hospitals, really placing RNs and travel nurses and things of that nature. And I kind of got burnt out. Like I was very frustrated. I was working very hard, and the people that were doing the job hated their life. So it kind of made me ask myself, why was I there? So I started looking for new career paths, and I came across a guy named Dave Fox. He's an entrepreneur in South Florida. He reached out to me and said, "Hey, I want to build a healthcare firm, but I don't know how to build it. I know you're a very knowledgeable guy in the healthcare space. Here's this money. Build something with it and come back to me."
How
So
interesting.
yeah, it was very interesting. So it gave me the longevity to really kind of figure out what I wanted to do in the healthcare space, how I wanted to prove my name. And make a long story short, it didn't end up working out with Dave. I ended up leaving the company. But I used the knowledge and the everything I learned to figure out I really wanted to be in cosmetic dermatology. I loved that not only did you have to be a nurse practitioner, physician assistant, dermatologist to really get into this field, to work in this field, but you had to be artistic. Not everyone who graduated med school could be an aesthetic injector. And there was no one really leading this space. So I wanted to be the person to lead that space. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Nice. So even though it didn't work out, at least you got a ton of experience by it and made you to do it for yourself, right?
Exactly. So once I knew about, I always say I worked really hard and I have a lot of work ethic, but I didn't know how to harness that work ethic to something that was a business. So once I was able to get that knowledge and really get the understanding of this is how you sell, this is how you convert clients, this is how you do great business and make long-lasting relationships, I was able to really build out my own team and start my own staffing firm to assist this small niche.
Nice. And I think that you had a great start because I remember when I graduated as or get certified as a hypnotherapist, you got all the tools and skills to help everybody. But if you're wanting to help everybody, you're not helping anybody because you don't give them a reason to come to you. And by choosing this very specialized niche, you can become the go-to person for that particular niche. So was that already from the beginning, or did you had a hard time finding your niche, or were you already, this is going to be it, and I'm going full in?
Yeah. So I have to give actually credit to Dave again, because he really introduced me to the niche kind of field. He just told me you never want to be a generalist in any type of industry. Like if you really want to make money, if you really want to be talented, if you really want to have a high level of success, you need to niche down what you offer and the services that you offer to really be the best at it. Because you go to these generalists all the time and they're not really good at anything. They're just okay at everything, right? And who wants
Yeah.
to work with someone like that? Like it's not going to go good. You really want to work with somebody that's an expert at their field and know exactly what they're doing and help you through the process seamlessly.
Yeah, it's what one of my coaches also said. When you're starting out, do you want to fish in a small pond and catch every fish in it, or do you want to fish in the ocean, hoping that one will bite, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've created a name for yourself now. You're the go-to expert for those people wanting to work in this business. How do you like entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I love entrepreneurship. Honestly, it's one of the best things that ever happened to me. Like I said before, like I was always a really hard worker. And I never really seen too many results from it because if you're not in sales, you just work hard, just really good at your job. When you get into the sales arena, you see the benefits of really working and being good at your job. And
Hmm.
I love just leading my team and also really being the best and offering the best service I can to my clientele. When I was working as an employee, I've seen so many businesses that were just half-assing it and not really giving it their all. And I always said, like, if I really could just 10x what they're doing and give my 100%, the clientele that I serve would benefit so much more and they wouldn't even realize who else was in the market. So being able to do that just really made me really love entrepreneurship and looking at it as winning the game that I'm playing.
Yeah, and that's great that you mentioned that, because sometimes it is a game. The moment you treat it as a game, you won't win every battle, but at least you keep going on playing the game, and as long as you keep playing the game, you'll start winning.
Exactly, exactly. When I was a kid, my favorite game, I used to love to play Monopoly. And I see now why, because it's literally like it's very similar in a lot of the aspects that I do now.
Yeah, definitely. I can totally imagine. My boys love Monopoly as well. It just takes so long to play it.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So, Jonathan, did you have some entrepreneurial roots as well, or did it become a passion of you later on?
Now, I always say my first business is when I was a kid. And I used to, I was like, I need more money. I want to buy this. I want to buy these new headphones. I want to buy this. So I got my shovel out the backyard. I went to each neighbor's door, knocked on the door, and said, "Hey, let me shovel your driveway and pay me $25, pay me $15, and I'll shovel your driveway. I'll shovel your walkway." Later on, once that started going good, I hired my cousin to get on board, and then I had two people, and we were always shoveling driveways. And I'm making a lot of money during the summer, during the winter time in upstate New York. It snows a lot. So I always say that's my first business. And that kind
Yeah.
of led me into entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and that's definitely what it's a great mindset, because that was actually your first business. You learned how to. I always say, as entrepreneurs, we're in the problem-solving business, right? Our clients, our ideal clients, they experience a problem, and you have the solution to the problem, right? And they're willing to pay for that. And that's actually what you did as a young kid. You proposed to shuffle the pathway, what they hated, but they needed it because otherwise they couldn't get to the front door, right? Because of the snow. So you solved the problem. They were willing to pay for that. So that was truly your first steps into entrepreneurship.
Yeah, yeah. Also, I would add on to that. Most people could have easily just got up and shoveled their snow, right? But if you really think about it, most people don't want to do every task. They want to outsource and have somebody else do that task for them. So if you're a great service that's going to get the job done, you're going to win business over and over again.
Definitely. You have to put your customer central. They're your main focus point. At the moment you treat them as a customer and make them king or queen, so to speak, they're willing to pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I told you I'm from the Netherlands, and it's currently in the Netherlands, the whole recruitment process, actually the whole recruitment scene is very hard, because there are too many jobs for too few people. Is it the same where you're going around, or is it still easy to get a good and especially to get great personnel, right? Because you don't want anybody to work in plastic surgery, right? You want them to have skills.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm located in Miami, South Florida, just for anybody that do not know. But in the United States, like you have to be a nurse practitioner, physician assistant, or higher to really inject or to work in these type of offices. So there's always going to be a surplus of jobs, right? Because there's so many people that are getting into business. This industry, I think, is going to grow $400 million over the next couple of years. So
Oh wow.
it growing and climbing very fast. So there's always going to be new businesses opening, but there's never going to be enough great talent. So it's really about finding the great talent and getting access to it.
Yeah. Do you also help your clients with, I consider to be the companies themselves, right? Because they're your clients.
Mhm.
Do you also help them to offer certain benefits that will help make the choice easier for you, for the potential employees? Because I
Yeah.
know it's not all about the money. You know, nowadays people want to have a growth scenario. They want to develop themselves. You know, they want to add value. So I guess those are very important USPs for a company to offer.
Yeah, no, that's a really, really great point because a lot of people think it is only the money, and that's where they get it wrong. They offer these employees this X amount of dollars and say, hey, I'll just throw money at them. And then the employee still quits because they're not happy. A lot of employees, and this comes with great, like being great at HR, being great at recruiting, and really learning more. It's more than just hiring somebody and finding somebody on a job source or job posting. Candidates come in mind and they have 12 human needs, which I got this from Tony Robbins. And anybody that doesn't know Tony Robbins, check this out. He's great. And you should check out the 12 human needs. So in life, us as humans connect to 12 things. And he lists them all. Some of them are like giving back. Some of them are like praising. You know, they need a lot of like praising in the workplace. If you're not giving your employee what they're looking for, then you're failing. So if they're looking for maybe a shorter commute to work and you're saying, hey, no, I'm just going to throw more money at you, then you're not really solving their problem and they're going to feel like you're not listening to them. They're going to want to quit anyway. So you really want to identify and bring it to a level of understanding and kind of empathy of what's really going on with this employee all around when doing hiring and when retaining talent.
Yeah. When I coach my clients, I always tell them, you know, when you're just starting out, then you are the company, of course, right? As a solopreneur. But
Yeah.
it's very important to have your own vision ready, your own mission statement, and also your core values. Because I always say, you know, the mission is what drives you. The vision is where you want to go to with the company. And the core values are like the like the borders in between your traveling the road towards your vision, right? Do you also see it as important for the companies you work for that they have clarity about their vision, the mission, and the core values? Because in my experience, if you go hire somebody or you start a partnership or whatever, and those are misaligned, then the partnership or the cooperation will be for the short term. But as when the persons are aligned with the mission, vision, and core values, then that relationship, that business relationship they're building, that will last and it will be for the long term.
Yeah, yeah, that's good too, because that is a good point and exactly right. Like if the company doesn't have core values or they're not aligned with what they're looking for or what they see in the future, the retention rate is going to be horrible. Candidates are going to keep quitting and the turnover rate is going to be really bad. And every time you turn over a candidate, you're spending a lot of money. You might not realize it. I'm sure the person that's doing all the accounting and signing the checks realize it. But if you're not realizing how much money you're spending bringing on a new employee, terminating another one, bringing on a new one, training. Everybody has to go through a training phase. There's so many different things that you have to do with new employees. So you really want to hire for specifics. You really want to hire to make sure they align with, like you said, your core values and who the company is.
Yeah. So if you would go back to the start of your own company, Jonathan,
Yeah.
how did it feel to position your first employee with your client? How was it for you?
Yeah, yeah. So it was actually amazing. So I started my company in 2019. And when I found my first customer, I had built relationships basically in the healthcare industry through all the years I've been working in just healthcare.
Hmm.
And I just reached out to a couple of candidates. I knew I was good at recruiting and I knew I still had some candidates in the aesthetic industry. I knew I wanted to be in there. So I started reaching out to just people in the industry. And my very first candidate that I found, I sent over to one of the spas I worked with. And I
Hmm.
was like, I got to find a job. I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know. I wasn't 100% yet. 2 days later, the guy calls me and said, she's hired. I said, what? He
Oh
signed me,
wow.
gave me a check. And he said, Yeah, thank you so much. You did a great job. I never looked back and I kept going. I never stopped getting deals after that.
Wow. And then it's amazing that your um, actually, what I always say, your mindset might be bothering yourself. It's limiting yourself. But once you
Mhm.
got such success experience, it tastes for more. I like we said in the beginning, it's you can consider it to being a game, right? And you don't want to lose the game. You just want to get on top of it, right? And it makes you learn from every past experiences, to optimize the process, to get better at it. And you get in this positive visual circle that's energizing you, and it's a great feeling.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I agree 100%.
So one of my coaches said that how you do one thing is how you do everything. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. How do
Mhm.
you recognize that with yourself, Jonathan?
Yeah, so I think that comes back to really having core values in yourself, right? And what you stand on. Like my biggest thing is really integrity and not compromising it. So I really go above and beyond and make sure that everything I do is held with integrity. And I know I'm not going to compromise that for anyone. So that goes across the board for everything I do. And that's got just kind of how I keep the standard, whether it's bringing on a new employee or signing a contract with a company or um honoring my guarantee or whatever clauses I have. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a perfect core value, Jonathan. So, what would you consider to be your biggest success until now?
Yeah. So I think my biggest success right now is my business has honestly ever since every year since 2019 that I've started, it has doubled in revenue, which is really unheard of, crazy. So compared to what, standards I have just speaking to other people in the industry and things of that nature. So it's just really been a big accomplishment for me to see the business take off and just go so high in such a short amount of time. And people really grasp the idea that I have.
Nice. And where do you see yourself in, let's say, 5 years time from now?
Yeah. So in 5 years' time, I'm really looking to get into the speaking space right now. That's my next transition. I feel like I have so many cool tips and things to really give to business owners and HR consultants and recruiters and things of that nature. So I'm really looking to get in the speaker space and also really simplify what the process I have now for talent. My company is very manual, as in we as employees send candidates to med spas, but I want to make it even more simpler so that it's automated for all spas in the industry.
Nice, nice. And you said, you're currently living in the state of Florida.
Mhm.
Um, do you also do you help med spas and plastic surgery surgeons all over the country, or just in the state you're working or living in?
So right now it's only in the United States. So everywhere, New York, LA, Miami, all the hot spots, and everywhere in between, Texas, Indiana, Tennessee, wherever you need and have a great spa that has great values and care about the employees, I'm here to help and can find you great talent. And we are going to expand outside of the United States. Just right now, we're only in the United States.
Ah, perfect. But it's already national company, and the
Yeah.
US is big enough, I would say.
Yes, it is. Yes. But yeah.
So, um, I know that a lot of companies, because they have a hard time finding the right personnel, they also have like this. How do you call it? I would describe it as a learning environment. Where the high school students or the university students, they can get some practical experience. Some field expertise.
Mhm.
Is that something that you would also offer to your clients? That they can already have like med students starting an internship with them, so that once they graduated, they might stay there as an employee.
That's a good idea and something I had been thinking about. You're almost speaking like I guess in my field it would be kind of like a fellowship
Yeah,
that they would attend. So they would work under the doctor and then eventually work with the doctor. And yes, I think the industry has not gotten to that point yet. And we as a community, I go to conferences and I speak to key opinion leaders and industry leaders about this all the time. I feel like we're heading into that space, and I do want to meet that demand because that is the next step, right? Because there's not much training to get into this industry from all sides. So if you want to get in, you got to kind of find training and really want it really bad to get in. But in different industries, I know they have fellowship programs, and I would love to bring that to my industry.
Oh, that would be great, Jonathan. So
Yes.
maybe you should add that to your bucket list, so to speak.
Yes.
So, um, do you if you truly look inside your heart, you know,
Mhm.
I know when a person is growing their company, there comes this certain moment in time that they need to get off the work floor and become a manager, become a true CEO, right? And have others doing the operational work for them. If you truly look deep inside your heart, what would you like to do? Would you like to become the CEO of your company and have the others do the work for you? Or do you still like the field work, so to speak?
You know, I've built out my team, and I have 5 employees right now, and they all work under me, and they do a lot of the work. I don't really do any of the work as far as like the actual day to day, like relating to the client. However, I make it very sure and make it like a goal of mine to still be in the day to day, still put in the work, still get on the floor and work with them alongside with them. I don't really believe in a CEO just kind of like having everybody else do everything and just kind of sitting there and managing. I feel the team respects you more and want to work harder when you're in the mud, when you're in the grind with them. Now, I know it does get to a point where you can't be 24/7 with them, but really showing that you're there with them helps and goes a long way.
Oh, definitely, and I couldn't agree with you more. I actually in the first season of my podcast I had a guest, and he had like a multi-million-dollar company, but it was based in Asia, and he had a home at in the US, and he thought he could run his company by that, and he couldn't because the employees in Asia they thought he was sitting on the couch filling his pockets, and they did all the hard work. So I think it's very important to stay in contact with your personnel, you know, with your employees, and do the work as well. Set an example, of course. But I can imagine that you want to make yourself like a little bit redundant, meaning that, you know, if you go on a holiday for 2 weeks or a month or whatever, you know, that the company still runs and everybody knows what he or she needs to do in order to keep the customers happy, of course. And I think that's what you just shared, you know, that you still want to work in the field and help them out and be like uh, having their back, you know, having their support. That's very important.
Yeah, it is. It's extremely important because they're like I always say when I used to even do consulting for different HR companies, I always tell them it comes from the top down. So the effort you put in as a CEO, showing up on time, putting in the effort, really going on your word, keeping your word, that goes all the way down to whoever. So I want to make sure that's clear. Like you really have to stand for what you believe in.
Yeah. So how was it for you to hire your first employee?
Yeah. So I hired my first employee just by networking. So a lot of the times people, I think they underestimate the power of really networking in person when you're at
Mhm.
conferences, even when you're at Starbucks, meeting people, seeing what they do and see if they might be a good fit. So I found my first hire was actually my PR consultant and I mean PR coordinator, and she worked with me to kind of get my brand more together and make sure that people knew about me, the world knew about me. And I found her through networking, and she was really great at what she do. But what I've learned through really hiring people, especially my first hire, is training is so like daily training is so necessary for any employee on your team. Like consistent training is so necessary. I know people expect so much from somebody coming in, like you need to know this, you need to know that. And I agree, there needs to be some boundary or some floor level what an employee needs to know when they come on board. But training is so necessary. to have people understand and really be at the level that you would like them to be at.
Yeah, and it actually goes both ways, because my experience as an entrepreneur, that you can hire a person to do something for you, or you can outsource it or delegate it, but you need to know the basics yourself as well, because otherwise you can't check whether or not they're doing a great job, right?
Mhm. I agree. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. So, Jonathan, if you would look at your um, well, I think you already mentioned some of your core values. Being on time, having your integrity as well. Setting an example for your employees as well.
Yeah.
Um, would you consider using your expertise to opening a new market, or will you stay within this current niche you're in?
So I don't see myself staying in this niche forever. I definitely want to give as much value as I can, take as much of the market space as I can, and really supply the best value I can to the market. I just don't see myself being in this forever because I'm an inventor. Like I love new things. I love inventing new things, creating new things, building new things, and then going on to the next thing and building that and going to the next thing and building that. So I see myself going into so many different spaces, trying so many new things, and really just keep going.
Nice. And I love that mindset, because it's all about growing. It's about developing yourself and actually challenging yourself as well.
Mhm.
Is it hard for you to step out your comfort zone?
I don't think so. You know why? Because when I first started my entrepreneur journey, I used to listen to a lot of like really great entrepreneurs like Sarah Blankley. Sarah Blakely. She's the founder and CEO of Spanx. And I know you might be like, wow, that's so different from kind of like um what you're doing and my business mindset. But I love finding really great entrepreneurs and really listening to them. And one of the things she said is really be uncomfortable, find yourself in uncomfortable positions all the time, and then when things come you won't feel uncomfortable. So I go out my way to put myself in uncomfortable positions all the time so that I can grow as a person and really not feel okay to get on that stage and speak, or feel okay to give advice, or do these podcasts or whatever I need to do to become the best entrepreneur I can for me and my team.
Yeah, and it's allowing yourself to make mistakes as well, because a lot of people are afraid of making mistakes. But
Mhm.
if you step out of your comfort zone, the results are unknown. You're doing it for the first time, so you're bound to make mistakes. And we have done it all our lives, but somehow it feels like we forget about it. And it's like it's a curse to making mistakes, but that's how you learn. At least you need to learn from your mistakes, of course. So
Yeah, you got to learn. Yeah. And you got to take the risk, because if you don't take any risks, then if you don't risk it, you're not going to be able to go to the next level.
yeah, it reminds me of what one of my coaches also said. That set goals so high that you cannot achieve them until you become the person who can. And I love that one.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Jonathan, do you have kids yourself, or do you aspire to
I
have kids?
don't, I don't have any kids yet. I'm still single, no kids yet. So I spend all my time working, which actually helps for entrepreneurs right now.
That definitely helps. But would you? Is it something that you see yourself in the future as well, being a dad?
Yeah, yeah. I definitely see myself family life, and really building that unit. And that's why I'm happy I'm starting so early in my life, because by a certain age, I definitely want to be able to automate, take some time off, and really focus on building that family unit.
Perfect. Perfect. I think you will do great, Jonathan, with your core values.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So,
Are you a
any
dad?
yeah, I'm a dad. You can see here a picture of my two boys.
Oh yeah.
They're adopted. We adopted them from Haiti, and they've now been with us for just over 13 years. So they're big boys now.
Wow. How
Yeah.
did that change with you? I know I'm like interviewing you now. How did that change with being an entrepreneur, having kids?
Well, they actually were the very reason I became an entrepreneur, because when they came to us, I was just working in the corporate world,
Yeah.
and I started looking for my common thread throughout my career was process optimization, and I love to do that the most. And then I thought to myself, um, well, you can optimize a process and have all the graphs and figures to validate an optimization. But if the people that are using the process don't change, the process itself won't change. So how can I get those people to change as well? Long story short, I came across hypnotherapy, and I thought, I could actually help my boys with that. And my wife thought the same, and she said we should actually do the training. If only we could help the boys with that. And we did the training back in 2015. And after the first weekend of training, I thought, wow, I want to do this for a living someday. And in my mind, it was in about 5 to 10 years' time from that moment on, and it became 2. So I started my entrepreneurial journey just over 8 years now ago. And they're actually the reason I became an entrepreneur.
Wow, super cool story.
Yeah, so I was already used to having kids around me, and yeah, they grow with it. But I see that things they take for granted because we're very open in our communications at home. That I remember that when I had friends over for playing, we had one room that was redecorated for being a practice, the home practice, for hypnotherapy. And they would show the friends the house, and they say, "Yeah, this is my room. This is James's room. This is the hypnotherapy room, and this is where my parents sleep." And it just took it for granted. And I thought, what should those kids think about when they say, "Well, this is the hypnotherapy room"? So they're used to it, and that's beautiful. And I recognize with my kids that, especially the oldest of the two, that he also is very entrepreneurial aspiration and ambitions, and we do our best to support him in that. I must say that he has some very big ideas and plans, and we're doing our best to keep it realistic for him. But I don't want to shatter his dreams that that's not possible. It's possible, but you shouldn't take those 7 miles steps. You should take it one step at a time. So it's more holding back a little bit, making small steps towards entrepreneurship, than already starting hiring your personnel and importing from China, for instance.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah,
it's nice to see that, and since we can talk about it, it's nice to have such conversations.
yeah.
So, Jonathan, if you look at your current team, would you say that one of the things that stick with me when other interview with a person is he talked about, I don't have employees, I have team members. And I think that's a very big difference, because when you're saying that they're team members, they're part of a team. So you're in it together, right? How would
Mhm.
you say that you um how do you consider your employees, if I would may call them employees?
Yeah, and I think that's a good question too, because I hire people that are really good at what they do, but I also hire people because of their ideas. And what I mean by that, I feel like a lot of times companies, they hire people that are really good at their do, and then they bring them in and say, "Hey, I just want you to do these 4 things. I just want you to do this list and nothing else. And I don't care about what your ideas are, how you're gonna make this better. Just do it like this because we've been doing it for 10 years, and this is how it works." And I feel like when I got my own company, I want to make sure that everybody that comes in had something opinion about what they can bring to the table. And I wanted to listen to them and hear them out and implement things that really made sense and really worked, instead of just hiring people to work at a task.
Yeah, it reminds me actually of a story of Sir Richard Branson, that he
Yeah.
once was somewhere in the world, and he saw a person and he liked that person, and he said, "I want to hire you." And when he hired them, then they started looking for a function, a role for that person,
Mhm.
because there wasn't any job opening, but he truly liked the person himself. I said, "I want to hire you, and we're going to find a role for you within the company." And I think that's you do that on a small scale currently, right? But it's like this. It's the same approach actually.
Yeah, no, it's the exact same approach. So I actually don't hire off job descriptions. Most of my clients are not hiring. You will never see their post online like now hiring. I hire off of really finding the best people in the industry. If I find somebody that's really good and they say, hey, I want to work at this place over here, if this place is not hiring, they're going to be hiring after I present them because they're going to want somebody that's really great at what they do on their team.
Yeah, perfect. And I think that's actually what definitely makes a difference in the industry. You know, that you're setting an example for that, because like you said, you know, the traditional recruitment companies, they just position job roles, right? They're I'm hiring and this is the job description, and you can send in your resume and we'll check it and we'll filter it and we'll probably propose 3 or 4 people.
Mhm.
And actually what you said, you know, if you find a great person, yes, I would love to work here, they're already motivated to work there. You know, they're not choosing for the role, they're choosing for the company. And then you can have this conversation with the company, you know, and see if there's a match. That's a different approach, but I think it's a very valid one, and more companies should do that. So hopefully they're not listening to this podcast, but
Yeah, because also when you hire out of because when you post an ad, you're usually hiring out of desperation. You're at the point where, hey, I really need somebody to fill this role. And hiring out of desperation is never good because you're gonna get bad talent hand over fist every time. When you hire out of really just hiring and seeing what's in the market, who do I connect with, who has core values, that's when you get this golden, the diamond candidate the rock star candidate that you've been wanting and is gonna really take your company to the next level.
I couldn't agree with you more, Jonathan. I tell the same in my advanced sales masterclass as well. So, and it's because the people will feel the desperation behind it, right? It might be the energy, it might be the way they describe it, but they feel the desperation. You're attracting the wrong people for that.
Yep.
So definitely described it, Jonathan. I'm afraid we could talk hours on this subject and entrepreneurship, but I want to give the listeners a break as well. So, Jonathan, if you could share a little tip or a little piece of wisdom about following your passion or entrepreneurship whatsoever, you could share that with the audience. What would it be?
So one tip I would love to share with the audience is I know a lot of times, especially with millennials or even Gen Z or whatever age you're at, you can see online, you can see your close friends, you can compare yourself to people and say, hey, this person's doing better than me. This person's going a lot farther than me. I've been working really hard. Why is my process? Why is my company not making it to that level? And I want to say, definitely don't focus on that. Keep going, keep striving, keep digging hard and putting the same work every single day. Your opportunity will come if you keep putting in the work and keep being the best that you can be.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about consistency, right?
Yeah, there you go. Consistency.
Perfect. So, Jonathan, if people want to know more about you or get in touch with you, how can you do that?
Yes. If anybody would like to know more about me, whether you are a creative and you would like to join my team or you would just want to know more about my services, my handles on everything is Jonathan McLean, JonathanMclean. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, things like that. Or if you would like to check out my website, it's www.Mclean Aesthetics. So that's McLean Aesthetics, AESTHETICS.com.
Perfect. Well, thanks again for being my guest, Jonathan. I wish you all the best and let's keep in touch.
Thank you.